Okay. So where have you done your field trip then?
I have my first field trip was in BSc first year, and it was in Maithon,
Hmm.
and that was my first field trip in my life. And then the consecutive field works in second year, it is in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, and the third one is Chandipur, Odisha. And when I came to Kharagpur, there is a 30 to 35 days field works in IIT
Good.
Kharagpur in semester curriculum,
Hmm.
and it was actually compiling two field works. The first one is in Anugul area, Odisha. It was completely in structural fieldwork, and there is a 1 or 2 days gap in between the first fieldwork and the second fieldwork. And from there we went to Bewari, Madhya Pradesh, and this was solely based on sedimentary.
Okay, so you have a good exposure of structural, sedimentary, and Mython. You visited Mython Dam or what?
The local rock types, and I have learned there how to orient toposit actually, and I have seen toposit actually for first time in the Python, and
Okay.
mapping exercise actually how to plot, how to locate yourself in a virgin area, or what are the rock types in and around Python. And then one day I went to just to uh, give a glimpse of the Marathon Dam actually. So mainly based on the rock types and the mapping.
In which topic you did your dissertation?
My dissertation topic is effect of pH on the physico-mechanical properties of marble, sandstone, and granite. There are the three different types of rocks.
So basically into the engineering geology side.
Yes, it was in engineering geology, based on engineering geology.
So you're you like this subject, engineering geology, or you like some other subject also?
Uh, Basically, yes, I like it. Engineering geology and the other subjects. If you talk about the other subjects, engineering igneous metrology. I think I pretty liked it, and the way our sir actually has taught us, I think it's brilliant. That's why it aroused my interest.
Okay. Lawrence, sir, here you want to add something, add questions to this much of information?
So, Ronak, tell me what is pH?
Uh, pH is equal actually pH is equal to is actually potential for hydrogen concentration. If we look at the formula, pH is equal to minus log 10 H plus, and H plus here is concentration of hydrogen ions. So and it is directly related with the concentration of hydrogen ion. And if it
Okay.
is okay,
You said directly related, and then in the definition, you're telling me it is logarithmic relation. So, direct relation is, for example, if x is directly proportional to y, then it does. So, y is directly proportional to x. That does not mean y equals to log x. Okay. So,
yes,
direct relation is different from logarithmic relation. It is logarithmically related to hydrogen concentration. Okay. Uh, so, why is what is the pH of neutral water?
the pH of neutral water I think 7.
Why is it 7?
Uh, it doesn't show any special character of acid and base, or
That's
it
what I said, neutral. That's what neutral means. Why, if it doesn't show character of acid or base, then why is it 7 in that case?
Have you heard of dissociation constant, Ronak?
yes sir, I heard about it. It is in constant.
Can you carry forward now
Uh,
how the definition of pH has come? Then you can answer Lawrence's question better.
if we know the simple the equation H plus plus OH minus is equal to H2O, and if we know the dissociation constant K, and
So which
K
is dissociating? H plus OH is dissociating
okay,
into
I
H2O.
think I'm just reversing it. H2 is dissociating into H plus and OH minus ion. So if dissociation constant is being written in the format that the product and the reactant H plus plus OH minus, and the activity of H2O, if it is liquid, so it will be 1. So the dissociation constant is equal to the product of concentration of H plus into and OH minus actually. And
Okay.
if uh,
So now you know the pH of neutral water is 7. So you just told us the formula also for dissociation constant. What will be the dissociation constant for water?
dissociation constant for water, for H plus it will be 10 to the power minus 7, and OH minus is 10 to the power minus 7. If we multiply both the terms, and then it will become 10 to the power minus 14.
Okay, good.
So that will be the value of dissociation constant.
Yes, good, good. Uh, do you have pen and paper with you?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. I have pen and paper.
Uh, can you first of all tell me what is a stereo net?
Actually, the stereo net is a simple and geometrical representation of what are the planar and linear features that we can observe in field, and what are the relations between them. If we actually in if we see any 3D features, then there will be the strike and even other actually the other structural data also.
So in this
So in stereo net, the
stereographic
3D
projection, we
object,
say, Ronak, I'll stop you there. We say that
yeah,
this
yeah,
is a stereographic projection.
yes.
Are there in stereo nets we use stereographic projections? What is a stereographic projection?
Stereography projection is something we are converting any 3D object to any 2D so that we can understand it easily.
So if I am a 3D object and my shadow falls on the wall, will that be a stereographic projection?
Sir,
All projection by itself means 3D to 2D. Okay, so we can represent it on a paper. But why do we call it a 3D? What you are telling me is definition of projection, not of stereographic projection. Okay, so what is stereographic projection?
the stereographic projection is all the plotting the structural 3D or 2D, that is the planar feature or whatever the linear feature, all the data is related to the planar feature and linear features. And we are plotting on it or to
No, okay,
for
Ronak, I just told you that is projection, not that. That's not definition of stereographic. Okay. Uh, have you heard about the Odo Harkin effect?
Odo Harkins rule. Yes, sir. I have heard about it.
Okay, what is it?
The uh, the even number atoms are more abundant compared to the odd atoms, actually odd number of atoms
Even number atoms are more abundant,
compared to the
odd number
odd
atoms.
atomic
Good.
number.
So how can you remove it if you are to remove it? So let's say if you are plotting geochemical data, you'll see Odo Harkins effect will come into picture. How will you ensure that it is not there in the final
I
plots?
think I think we need to normalize it with respect to something. If
What is
we
that
perform the
something?
normalized exercise uh, with respect to any known sample or any chondritic meteorite, if we
Okay,
know the concentration of it,
okay,
then the effects will be removed.
okay, yeah. Uh, so which is the most abundant element in the universe?
It is hydrogen.
Hydrogen. And at the start of the Big Bang also, hydrogen, it was most universe was mostly made up of hydrogen. So on
Hydrogen.
Earth we see there are several heavier nuclei than hydrogen. How did these nuclei form?
I think those the heavier elements will form due to the nuclear fusion actually. So if we start from the hydrogen, then the fusion, we will continue the fusion process of hydrogen. We can get helium, then consecutive more fusion process. So from helium, we can get the more gradual, the heavier elements.
Okay.
Ultimately, we are getting iron.
Where does this fusion happen?
The fusion happens at the core of the stars. Actually, nuclear fusion. This
Okay.
process operates at the core
But
of the
at the
stars.
core of the stars, mostly it's like hydrogen gets converted to helium. Okay. Uh, how will you like? Are there any stars where you get heavier elements than lithium? Let's say you start to get carbon, oxygen, and even heavier than those?
Generally, the stars which fall in the array of the main sequence stars, they generally have the hydrogen and helium, and the process of fusion ceases after the formation of helium. And though there are some other red giant, or there are other some terms I'm not actually remembering it. Neutron star, those which have the greater masses than our solar masses, than our sun. So heavier elements are probably be found on the core of that type of stars.
Okay. Uh, have you heard about silica saturation
Yes, sir. I have heard about it.
in
Silica
igneous
saturation.
rocks? Okay, what do you mean by silica saturation?
It's silica saturation. I think there are three terms related to it. It's undersaturated, saturated, and oversaturated. So if you see the silica saturation, then there will be no free phase of quartz. And the sulfur will exist, but there is no free phase of quartz.
Uh, Ronak, your voice is not a little audible. Can you repeat the last part again?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, now it's much better.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. If we, I'm saying that there is three terms related to it. That it's undersaturated, saturated, and oversaturated term. So, in if we think that silica saturated, I think there is no free phase of quartz. So, no free phase of quartz will be exist here in case of silica saturation.
Okay.
Can you
Uh,
name certain silica undersaturated rocks?
It's silica undersaturated rock. It's any feldspatite bearing rock in nephelinite, phonolite, and anything. There will be the feldspatite bearing minerals. I think that will be the silica undersaturated rock.
okay. In olivine, let's say fosterite, your fosterite olivine, silica, peritectic system, you would have heard about it, right?
Yes, sir. I have heard about it.
So where do you get silica undersaturated compositions? Let's say if you have a melt, where will you get silica undersaturated, silica saturated, and silica oversaturated magma compositions? So your answer should be, so you have these reasons, right? So you have, for example, first of all, tell me, uh, okay, you go ahead, see what you can say about this.
Uh, if the magma composition lies in between fosterite and ensterite, then there is no chance of silica, irrespective there is fractional crystallization is happening.
Mhm.
So in that case, there is no chance of getting silica. And in silica saturated, I think if ternary diagram, I think it's pretty
No, no,
in
take a
pretty
binary only.
okay.
So
Then the magma composition is if magma composition lies exactly at the position of enstatite, then there is no chance of getting free Si2 phase. And the third one is if the magma composition lies in between enstatite and silica, and then there case we can get the Si2 phase as a free phase actually. Free quartz.
okay, and have you heard about aluminium concentration? Alumina concentration, just like you have silica concentration, there is alumina concentration concept also.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with the term.
Okay, what is a rock that is saturated in aluminium? First of all, how will you define aluminium saturation? As you defined silica saturation, you said in terms of quartz, presence of quartz or free silica in the system. How will you define alumina saturation?
Alumina saturation, I think, means that the if any magma composition I can take and the iron magnesium bearing minerals will crystallize first, then the remaining melt will be rich in Al2O3 composition, and then we can say that the melt will be alumina saturated actually. And iron, if the iron magnesium minerals has been crystallized, so Al2O3 doesn't go into that the structure of the mineral. So
Okay,
the volume
so
fraction of the melt.
which mineral are you talking about when you say, like, can you give some example? Maybe just one
I think
example.
it's plagioclase mineral.
Okay, plagioclase. So if you're talking about, let's say, not plagioclase, but K feldspar also has aluminium in it, right? And it does not,
Yes,
but
sir.
it does not have magnesium in it.
Yes,
So
sir.
there also it can go, right? In K feldspar,
Yes,
even
sir.
if it doesn't have to be magnesium and iron only.
Okay.
So How will you identify a rock that is oversaturated in alumina?
Uh, there will be, if the rock has been oversaturated with alumina, then I think Al2O3, then corundum will be present as Al2O3, then some free
Yes,
phase.
you are right.
Corundum.
Corundum may be present. Can you give any other minerals that may also be present? Any other minerals which are rich in aluminium other than feldspars, basically plagioclase and alkali feldspar? Are there other minerals which are also saturated in
Other
aluminium,
than
which have
feldspar.
aluminium?
Aluminosilicate.
Yes, aluminosilicates are there. They'll be found in basically metamorphic rocks. Okay, yes, but you are correct. You will start to find those. Others can be, for example, even mica, such as muscovite. You will find
Okay.
usually if it
My
is if it has aluminium in excess of feldspars values. Okay, all right. My final question to you, okay, before Prakash says take over, uh, I'll ask you a little bit about sequence stratigraphy. Okay, what are the factors that determine relative sea level changes?
the factor that actually affects the relative sea level change is actually the movement of the relative movement of the land and the eustatic changes of the sea level actually. So it can affect when the eustatic sea level changes, then it can actually happen. But if the neighboring land, the upliftment or the upliftment or the downwarping of the land is happening, so these can actually affect also the relative rise and sea level. So it is
Okay,
the correlation between
and
those
what is the
particular.
difference between regression and transgression?
The regression and transgression is all about the movement of the shoreline towards either it will be go towards sea or it will be go towards the land. If the shoreline moves towards the land, then it is transgression, and if it is go towards the sea, and then it will be the regression.
Okay, and then what is progradation and retrogradation?
Due to this transgression or regression, actually the sediments are actually depositing and they are actually creating a sequence. So if we talk about the transgression, then actually finer sediments are deposited over the coarser one. Then it is the retrograde sequence. But if we talk about the regression, then the coarser sediments will overlay the finer sediments. Then it is the prograde sequence.
Yes, you're correct. So, what is the condition for, let's say, progradation to happen?
Environmental condition.
Yes. Environment, I'm asking about relationship between, let's say, how the sea level is changing, what is sedimentation rates between these.
Firstly, it's all related with the movement of shoreline actually.
Mhm.
So how it will move in which direction, and
Okay, let me rephrase this question. If relative sea level is increasing, what will happen?
relative sea level is increasing, then the finer sediments will overlay the coarser sediments. It
Are
will
you
come
sure?
out. Relative sea level. Um, hmm, the land is subsiding.
Okay, no problem, Ronak. Over to you, Prakash sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Uh, am I audible, Ronak?
Yes, sir. You are audible, but you are not visible actually.
Okay, now I'll be visible now. So, can you define Hooke's law?
Hooke's law, yes, sir. Within the elastic limit, stress is proportional to strain. If it is within the elastic limit, and it is the statement of the Hooke's law.
And how you define stress?
Stress is actually the application of any load per unit cross-sectional area, or you can say it is force. Stress is actually it's F by A. So if we apply any force on any object, so the amount of force has been applied to the object per unit cross-sectional area, then it is defined as stress.
Suppose the force makes is not perpendicular to the area.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, if it makes some angle theta with the vertical, you can have a paper. Do you have a paper? So
Uh, Theta
you
with the
draw, we draw a horizontal plane, and
horizontal. Okay,
yes, and the force is making some angle theta with the vertical.
the vertical. Okay, yes, sir. Okay,
So
fine.
how much is the pressure on the surface?
The pressure is if we just break the component of AF into those according to the vector rule, then it will be F cos theta by A,
F cos theta.
as theta is the angle between the vertical and
So
the direction at
basically,
which F is applying.
basically, the area which you are considering is perpendicular to the force, or it should be parallel to the force.
Oh, okay. I didn't change the area actually. Okay, okay.
It doesn't matter. You
The
can change the force also, but the thing is, whether it should
hmm.
be force and area should be taken perpendicular to each other, or the force should be parallel to the area on which it is
They
acting.
should be taken perpendicular to each other.
Okay. So how you define Young's modulus?
The Young's modulus is the ratio of the longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain actually. When the stress will be acting along the axis actually, longitudinal axis.
So Young's modulus is the ratio of this. And what is
Yes.
Poisson's ratio?
The Poisson ratio is the negative of the ratio of the lateral strain by longitudinal strain.
And what will be the unit of Poisson's ratio then?
Then it is unitless. Both is the unit of strain, and the strain doesn't have any unit actually.
Okay. So does Poisson ratio affect the P wave or S wave velocity?
Yes, sir. There is actually the expression from which, if we know the P wave and S wave velocity, or if we know the Poisson ratio and P wave velocity, we can determine the S velocity. I think I remember the expression actually: Vp square by Vss square is equal to 2 into 1 minus nu by 1 minus 2 nu. So if we remember it, then we can say that the nu, which is Poisson ratio, it will affect both the P wave and S wave velocity.
Okay. So how you define density?
The density, if I want to define the density, it is mass per unit volume.
So suppose you increase the volume, what will happen to the density?
If we increase the volume, the density will decrease if the mass remains constant. I think yes, the mass remains constant, the density will be decreased.
Okay. So density is independent. If suppose I make a copper pen and I make a copper box, the density will be higher in which case?
Could you please repeat copper pen or
I'm making a copper pen, solid copper pen, and a solid copper box, big box.
big box?
So
Okay.
the density will be higher in which case?
Copper pen or copper box. I think, sir, it will depend on the amount of the mass present in both the object. Then we can comment on the density. It's copper pen or box, the volume will be changed, and I think the amount of mass is not constant.
Okay. So means you cannot say with certainty what will be the density in both the cases,
Yes,
which
sir.
will be having higher or lower.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you said P wave velocity and density are related to pH,
Mm,
or you did some research on this dissertation, how they are
yes,
varying with pH. It means, right?
yes, sir.
So how pH is affecting density and the P wave velocity.
If we yes, sir, I found out the correlation between the P wave velocity and density, and I try to extrapolate it, and I try to bring all those terms in a 3D diagram. If we decrease the pH, I think in acidic solution, the both the density and P wave velocity will be decreased, and if we increase the alkalinity of the solution, I mean that pH increases, then also the pure velocity and density decreases, but the rate of decrease is higher in acidic solution compared to the alkaline solution.
Okay. So, you must have heard about Mohs circular failure.
More circular figure. Yes, sir, I've heard about it.
So, uh, can you define the equation of a circle
Uh,
in
yes,
terms
sir.
of x and y? A
Yes, sir.
general equation of circle.
If the center is 0, 0, 0, then it is x square plus y square is equal to a square. A is the radius of the circle. And
Okay.
if the center is hk, I think suppose the center is hk, then x minus h the x minus h of whole square plus y minus k its whole square is equal to a square.
Okay. So, what will be the center? What will the radius of a Mohs circle in terms of sigma n and sigma s?
Okay, the in terms of sigma n and sigma s. Okay.
Yes.
Or mm, uh, if we think about it in terms of sigma 1, sigma 3, I think it will be easy. The radius will be sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2.
Okay. So you have gone to Mathan in your field trip area. है ना?
Yes, sir.
Mathan basically, the Mathan Dam is constructed on which river?
It's the river Barakar.
Barakar. And how Barakar is very important for a geologist in terms of mineral deposits?
It is the part of lower Gondwana
Hmm.
sequence, and the stratigraphic age is I think Permian. I don't remember clearly if it is lower or upper, but it's Permian.
So, and what can you briefly state the stratigraphy of Gondwana?
Yes, sir. If we see the stratigraphic table of the Gondwana, at the bottom it is Talcher boulder bed, and it is indicative of the glaciation. And above which it is coming Karharbari, and then it is uh, Barakar is coming, then Baron Measure, then Raniganj, and then the and if we move into the Triassic, then it is Panchet is coming, and then the Upper Gondwana sequences. If it is that will depend on the what type of basins are actually we talking. If it is South River Basin, then the Pali, Tiki, Parsoda, those sequences coming, and Cretaceous. I think uh, I think the Cretaceous, all the sequences Cretaceous. I think no, actually I didn't remember the sequence of Cretaceous.
Okay.
And Supra Panchet is coming. I think above Panchet, Supra Panchet. I think
Okay.
Taj Mahal.
So
I think
there are certain physico-mechanical tests in engineering geology. Can you name certain tests?
yes, so there are some tests. If we talk about the compressive test, then it is the unconfined compressive strength, actually UCS test, we can say. We can also say the triaxial compressive strength and the tensile strength, and it is very popular that Brazilian tensile strength. And we also perform some loss abrasion test or Los Angeles test. I think I'm sorry with the term Los Angeles test, and CR box. We use often the CR box to estimate the CR strength of the rock or soil, actually CR test.
So what is uh, how the samples are kept in UCS and tensile strength test?
If we talk about the UCS, I think the cylindrical samples are taken, and it has some specific size, and it has some specific length and diameter ratio.
What is
And
that ratio?
for UCS, the length diameter ratio it's 2.
Its length should be higher than the
Length should be
diameter.
higher than diameter. Yes, twice of the diameter.
Okay, can you show the diagram if you have the paper? How the
Uh,
samples are kept in both the cases for a brief comparison.
yes. Other one is tensile strength.
Yes,
Am I-
Brazilian
Yeah, yeah.
test as you mentioned.
Just need to.
You can show it like this. Yes.
The right one is which is in disc shape, and the disc shape it is used in Brazilian tensile strength, and the left one it is in cylindrical in shape. The
Okay.
specimen.
Have you read about RQR or RMR?
Yes, sir.
Briefly tell us about that.
Uh, RQD RQD. Okay, sir.
Oh
Is
yes,
it?
RQD and RMR.
Yes, sir. If we talk about the RQD, we perform the certain drilling experiments, and we are actually retrieving the cores from the underground. So, if we talk about the RQD, RQD is the ratio of the total length of the collected core samples, the total length of the collected core samples, which have length greater or equal to 10 semi, to the total core run. So it is the ratio of all those collected core samples which have the length greater than 10 cm to the up to the total length that the drilling experiment has been done. So it is the ratio of each, if you ratio of that, the RQD. And
Mhm.
RMR is its full form is rock mass rating. So, and there are certain factors that actually affects the rock mass rating. How should we rate a rock, whether it is a good quality or bad quality? So from the rating we actually tell that the rock is whether it is appropriate or not. So if we talk about the certain factors that affect RMR, it is the presence of discontinuity, the spacing between discontinuity, or the RQD, which is rock quality designation, and the orientation of the discontinuity that I have talked about, and if any groundwater condition of that reduces the strength. So these are the certain factors.
Okay. Tell me how nuclear energy is generated. The process, briefly, from the beginning.
How? Could you repeat, sir?
How the atomic energy is generated, nuclear energy is generated from the beginning. Like you take the fuel, what further happens, what goes where, you know, brief sketch of the nuclear reactor, I mean to say, and what reactions takes place, and what is the mechanism basically, working principle of a nuclear reactor.
Okay. So I don't remember the sketch actually. I
Hmm.
think the nuclear reactor is if we take any heavier atoms and nuclear fission. I think it is the main principle of the nuclear reactor. If we take any heavy radioactive atoms and we if we bombard a neutron on that radioactive atoms, then it can split into two lighter atoms actually. So from this reaction, actually, huge amount of energy will be liberated. So that will the regulate the nuclear reactor. So nuclear reactor needs the energy which the nuclear reactor needs. So it has been collected from that uh, uh, the spontaneous reaction of nuclear uh, fission actually.
So basically you are meant for controlled energy generation, nuclear.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So, and how this is different from the nuclear bombs, the destructive use of nuclear energy?
In case of nuclear bomb, I think the amount of energy uh, which has been liberated, that the whole amount of energy has been used. But the nuclear reactor, actually, the required amount of energy has been used, and the other amount of energy, I think, has been transferred to any other form. Actually.
Okay, do read about slow neutrons and how they are captured, so that they only react with the further three. Okay.
Okay, 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 sir.
So in India,
1 minute.
can you name the locations where you can find uranium and radioactive minerals deposits?
Just a minute. Just a minute, sir.
Okay.